This is my new tool for making small tubes from metal clay. It comes with a brass rod and a set of instructions. So the first thing that you need to do is to lubricate the tube maker. I'm using some oil with a brush and I'm going to brush it on to both sides. You want to ensure that you cover both sides of the tool and in the channel, and do it quite liberally so that the clay doesn't stick. So once you've done one side, turn it round and do exactly the same on the other side. As I say, I'm using olive oil on this in this demonstration. You could try other lubricants as well, but you want to make sure that it's brushed well into the tool. So once I've done that, I'm going to take some metal clay. And for this demonstration, I'm going to use bronze clay, but it's the same for any of the clays that you might use. So I'm going to get some 1.5mm or 6 cards thick depth gauges and a little bit of clay. And then I'm going to take my snake roller and roll it out so that it gets down to the depth of the guides. As it rolls, it gets a bit longer. It's obvious it might be too long, so you can cut some off and then continue rolling it. And roll it down until it doesn't go any thinner. Then put the clay in front of the tool. You want to chop the ends off so that you just have enough clay to fit in the main channel. Then once you've cut the ends off, you will pick up the clay and put it into the channel. And then press down so that you flatten this clay slightly. It's just to flatten it off a bit, so you don't need to press too much. You then take a little bit of water and either a brush or your finger and wipe over the top of this snake of clay just to dampen it. And then taking the brass rod, locate it in one end, press it down into the clay, and you can press it in the middle just to hold it down. It may bounce up at this stage. Don't worry about that. So then you take another piece of clay and you're going to do exactly the same thing again. So rolling it out to 1.5mm or 6 cards thick. Once you have it down to the depth of the rolling guides, you can put the rolling guides away. Take the tool and the clay and then line it up so that you can judge where to take the ends off and just cut the ends so that you have just enough clay to go into that channel. Now this time, before you put it in, you want to just flatten it slightly with your finger. And then carefully turn it over, and again wet your clay with your finger or a brush. And then lift it up and place it on top of the brass rod. Lining it up with the other piece of clay. And then close the tool. Then once you've closed the tool, press it very firmly. And then you can open it straight up. So now you will see that the clay has squeezed out of the sides. I'm just using a blade just to cut them off. And then lifting the brass rod. The tubes will come with it. Just sit it on the other side for now and clean off any excess, which should come off fairly easily because you've oiled it. So you should be able to just pull off that clay and then recover it back and with the rest of your clay under your hydrating pot. So now take your tube of your brass rod with your tubes on it and just rotate it 90 degrees and then place it back into the channel. And then close the tool again and just press firmly. And then when you open it up, you'll see that again some clay might have squeezed out the sides. I would just leave it now, but you can see that that's given a really nice join. So I would put this to dry. So suspend it somewhere to dry, either across a little dish, or if I'm putting it in my dehydrator, I would balance it onto a couple of pieces of cork so that it would dry there. You can't put the tool in the dryer, it will damage it. So just put your brass rod in with the clay on it. So here it is dry. Then once it's dry, you can see the bits that have squeezed out, they just flake off. They're really thin, so they just flake off easily. So just going along, taking most of the excess bits off the edge. The ends will also break and come off quite easily if any clay has oozed into the smaller channel. And then at this stage, you can leave everything onto the brass rod, which gives it some support, and you can just sand the edges really easily whilst it's supported on this brass rod and just tidy it up. So just sanding that down, you can use either sanding pads or sanding sticks or a piece of sandpaper, or if you prefer, you can use wet sanding method as well. Just remember though, if you use the wet sanding method, I would leave it to dry before you try to take it off the brass rod. So once you've done all them, you can now remove the tubes from your brass rod, or if you prefer to leave them on there to store it and just break off as you need it, that's entirely up to you. So to break the sections, use your fingernail in the little notches and just snap the tube at those notches, and you'll see it breaks really easily. You will have 4 5mm sections and then 2 10mm sections. So once you've broken them all apart, you go back to your tool, and I would clean it off at this stage to take off some of that oil because you don't want to get your tubes wet again. Taking this one, the longer one here is the 10mm. So taking the 10mm one, put it into the little 10mm channel, and you can hold this in place then and sand the ends using, again, either sanding pads, sanding sticks, or a piece of sandpaper. And once you've done one end, just take the tube, flip it over, close the tool and do the other end. And this will give you a nice neat finish on either end of your tube. As you can see, nice and tidy. The 5mm ones you can put into any of the other channels. This channel is the 5mm length. So again, put it in, close it, sand the ends. At the other end of the tool is a 4mm channel, which is a little bit fiddlier to hold to get your tube into. And also a 3mm. So just closing that over, and then it holds in place. And again, you can sand it down, or if you want to take a bigger chunk off, use a scalpel blade and just carefully cut it off, and you're left with a small 3mm section and a 2mm section for your hinges. And that is my tube making tool. If you have any questions, please do get in touch. You can contact me via the details that are on screen now.